السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We pray and we hope that everyone is doing well tonight and is in good spirits and iman and good health, inshallah ta'ala. Tonight we have the honor of hosting, mashallah, Sheikh Muhammad al-Faqih and Sheikh Yasir Fazaga, and myself as well, inshallah, to just have a conversation, inshallah ta'ala, about Ramadan, why this will be a very unique Ramadan, and some of the challenges that we might face and how we can overcome them, inshallah ta'ala. Of course, we know that the month of Ramadan is the month in which the doors of Jannah are opened, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He makes us among those who are able to enter Jannah, inshallah, ya Rabbil Alameen. We know that the shayateen are locked up, or chained, I should say. We know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala emancipates people during this month. We know that the doors of Jahannam are closed. We know that it is a blessed month that we look forward to the entire year, and so it is pertinent to, inshallah ta'ala, take advantage of times like this to get ready for it, inshallah ta'ala. With that said, we have the mashayikh with us, alhamdulillah, and we were going to ask them some questions and kind of have them share their thoughts and their ideas on how to, inshallah ta'ala, welcome this month, and what kind of mindset we should have. So first we'll ask both of the mashayikh, so whoever wants to start. Maybe we'll start with Sheikh Yasir, because we have to respect age and whatnot. Alhamdulillah. But Sheikh Yasir, so we've been getting a lot of questions on the month of Ramadan, and obviously this is going to be a very special and unique Ramadan. What kind of Ramadan are we looking at exactly, when people are asking?
Yeah. So Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah, wa alaykum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and to all of our viewers, brothers and sisters in humanity and brothers and sisters in faith, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace and the blessings of Allah be upon all of you. I really like what you said, and that is, it is going to be a unique Ramadan. And obviously, the circumstances that we are facing are different circumstances. So it's really all about what we make out of it. And especially for Muslim minorities in the West, Ramadan has been this thing that we claim to be as our own. This is the time that, you get to drill, Islam and identity. And it is fasting and a lot more that accompanies the month of Ramadan. And unfortunately, we are going to miss out on some of these aspects, but inshallah, we will win and gain some other aspects. So I don't view it as going to be a difficult Ramadan. Maybe to a certain level, there's going to be an emotional component of it that is going to be as such. But I also believe it to be a unique Ramadan with the opportunity to develop different set of skills. And also, inshallah, with the right attitude, I believe that a lot of good can come out of it.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Sheikh Muhammad, so what is being lost this Ramadan, but also if you could reflect on what is being gained, because I know there's probably elements of both. There's things that we're going to lose perhaps, but then there's also things that we can gain. So share with us your thoughts on that.
Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Indeed, there's a lot to be gained. First of all, the very opportunity to be alive or to be well, and for those who are not doing so well in terms of their health, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ease their suffering and their pain. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reward them. But the very fact that we have come to this point, and we ask Allah Azza wa Jal that He continues to bless us and allow us to experience the month of Ramadan. That in and of itself is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So that is something very positive, right? And we know the famous hadith of two individuals, one of whom lived a year longer than the other. Both of them ended up dying in the battle. You know, one of them actually died as a shaheed, and the other one died what we would classify as natural death. And the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that the one that died later, a year later, though he wasn't a shaheed, he had higher degree than the one that died as a shaheed. And when the Prophet ﷺ was asked, one of the elements that he mentioned is that he lived longer, and so he got to do more deeds, and he was able to experience Ramadan and fast an extra Ramadan. So it counts, right? So every Ramadan counts. So that in and of itself is a ni'mah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we can look at the bright side. One of the aspects, and Sheikh Yasser, please feel free to comment on this one, is that we're very used to being led and being told what to do, and we kind of just follow a regular program. This time we are, on our own, but there is something unique about just being able to do ibadah on your own, right? Without any distraction, right? Fasting in and of itself is a practice of sincerity and authenticity, right? Because only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that who's fasting and who's not. Now at night we get to also work on our sincerity, right? By doing things on our own at our own pace. And maybe inshallah ta'ala we can recommend different things that we can do. But indeed it is going to be a very big challenge, especially for people who are used to, I was just reflecting earlier with some of you on this. Sheikh Yasser, you're the one that mentioned this earlier. You said, how is it for someone who has been either who was involved in the process of leading Taraweeh since I was like 15. So we're talking about 10 years, right? We're talking about, more than 3 decades, right? More than 3 decades. And now all of a sudden we're told that no Taraweeh, no Jama'ah, it's going to be a tough one, but nonetheless, there is also a great opportunity for us to start doing things on our own, get to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and experience Ramadan maybe the way the early companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam experienced it when there was no Taraweeh, and people, were just praying on their own and doing their own at their own pace.
Shaykhna Anwar, I think Taraweeh is one thing that is going to be lost, as Sheikh Muhammad mentioned. And I think for many of us, it was not just Taraweeh. It is also what Taraweeh meant. It was the routine of me being able to come to the masjid every single night. It was the opportunity to break the fast together. It was the entire family would come to Taraweeh. The kids would be playing together. I get to check on my friends and the community member. So it is the Taraweeh and the sense of togetherness and the sense of community that is also associated with what Taraweeh meant. And like Sheikh Muhammad said, to a good number of us, Ramadan and especially Taraweeh was an opportunity maybe for your annual listening to the Quran. Maybe some of us are used to the, it is in Ramadan that I annually read the Quran once a year. I usually do it in, in Ramadan and so on. So we just want to validate the sense of loss that the people are going to feel this this Ramadan. And remember, as we are validating and appreciating the loss that people are going to be experiencing, inshallah, we also want to make sure that we have an optimistic approach to this, simply because that has been the attitude of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. كان يحب الفأل في أمره كله, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would be optimistic in all of his affairs. And if you don't mind, if we can just go around acknowledging the different segments within our community that is going to maybe feel
impacted by this
losses at different times. And I will just begin by the brothers and the sisters who this Ramadan was going to be their first Ramadan. You know, these are either our new Muslims who are really looking forward to connect to the community and collectively experience this with the rest of the community. I think that is going to be loss, a big loss for them, especially some of us really may not be at that community level, but then within our families, we will have some kind of a togetherness. Now some of our brothers and sisters are the only Muslims in their families, and this is going to be their first Ramadan, or to them Ramadan was their way of connecting to the entire community, annually. I think that's going to be a big huge loss for these brothers and sisters. And again, to them, Wallahi, I tell you, man, subhanallah, really appreciate the sense of the loss that you'll be going through. And we can only hope and pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala compensates you in ways that are just unimaginable. Inshallah, ya Rabbil Alameen. But wallahi, my heart goes out for these people simply because, it really is going to be difficult, I believe.
So,
Yeah,
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Yeah, go ahead, Sheikh Muhammad. You wanted to add something?
No,
to that?
subhanallah. Yeah, another segment that we were talking about. Obviously we have a lot of suggestions and idea. Not a lot, but some suggestions and ideas for people to start. Maybe doing things on their own with their family members. But also, my heart goes out to our brothers and sisters who are single, who are looking forward to join the community for iftar, or go to the masjid every night to perform Taraweeh in a congregation and join other fellow Muslims in worship. So that is also going to be another difficult situation, and perhaps maybe we can address that as well and see what we can do to help them, especially those within our community. So stay strong, obviously, and remain positive. But we have to acknowledge that we do have different demographics and even children. SubhanAllah, I remember he's mashallah now a professional, mashallah, right now. But I remember there was 20 years ago a young fourth grader that told me Ramadan is the best month of the year. Right? I was like, oh, mashallah, Umar. I was like, great. Now, Umar, mashallah, mind you, now Umar is like a PhD in dentistry, I think, something like that. So I said, mashallah, Umar, so what is it that you love about Ramadan? He said, my mom makes the best dishes, and we invite people over and she makes multiple dishes. It's the best time of the year because all the great dishes and come out, and then there's the socialization aspect also that is going to be also missing for a lot of people. So it is indeed a unique and situation that we've never experienced before.
So yeah, obviously, alhamdulillah, there's, like you said, the issue of Taraweeh being more of a social experience as much as it is like a spiritual experience, and Ramadan in general being a social experience where people are inviting people over for food, and we're being invited over to people's homes for food, and sometimes it's the only time of the year that we actually like get invitations and we do these visitations, and it's a very busy month. This upcoming Ramadan is not going to be as busy. I talked to there's some international students who miskin, they're stuck here. They have no family, no brothers and sisters, no siblings, no very minimal friends because of their studying and whatnot. So Ramadan is going to be very difficult for these types of people. What advice would you have for people who might not have like a family or even like extended friends really that they're living with to kind of substitute in the Ramadan? What kind of advice do you have, Mashayikh?
I suggest that we pay a little bit more attention to our language. So this Ramadan is not going to be difficult. This Ramadan is going to be unique, inshallah. Okay, and I think that's a good place to start, because remember there is something in psychology, it's psycholinguistics, And that is the kind of vocabulary that we choose is going to have an impact on the way that we react to what is being told to us. And I think the more positive language that we choose, I think it just you that's how we help change and shape the perception and the attitude. And please keep in mind that being an optimist is not really about being blind to the difficulties. That's not what optimism means. Optimistic people do recognize these challenges. They do see the difficulties that everybody else sees. It's not that they're simple minded or they're ignorant or they are unaware. They're extremely aware. They are as aware as anybody else. But they choose to focus their effort and their energy on that silver lining that they see. As the saying goes, two prisoners looked out of the prison bars. One saw mud, the other saw stars. The mud was there, the stars were there, but it's really about where do you want to
Focus.
um, to focus that. And also the other thing is, we tend to bring up this idea of food. Remember, it's not really the food; it is the experience that is associated with the whole food thing. And I love the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he said that وجبت محبتي للمتباذلين فيا والمتزاورين فيا, that the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is incumbent upon those who visit each other for my sake, who love each other for my sake, who spend on each other for my sake. So the idea of spending and the idea of cooking for people, it wasn't really just for the cooking part, but it is a way of appreciating the friendship and the brotherhood and the camaraderie that people feel towards one another. So it's not just the food part. And I'm sorry, but I absolutely love the story. It said that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they visited one of his companions, disciples, and he invited them for food. And then one of the invitees who came along with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he apologized by saying that I am fasting today. And the Prophet ﷺ said, break your fast. أخاكم تكلف لكم. He said, your brother has put a lot of effort in this. So the Prophet ﷺ tells this person, break your fast and enjoy what is taking place simply because your brother has put a lot of effort in this. That is really how sometimes we express our joy and appreciation to one another. It's just I can cook on my own. At least I know I can cook. I don't know about you two. I know I can cook on my own. So that's not a problem.
Sheikh, I can eat on my own. whatever you cook, inshallah ta'ala.
See, I can't do either. I can't eat by myself, and I can't, cook by myself. So,
so remember, it is the fact that it is the company that we want. It is the Ramadan spirit that is happening. But now that you said what can be done about it, I think for those of us who are able, identifying, different members in our community, not because they can't afford it, not because they can't cook on their own, but that is just our way of, that mutual love and respect. I know single people who can go and buy food, they can afford it. But now the idea is this was a home cooked meal. It is the love that was, placed into doing this. I think we can still express these feelings despite the uniqueness of this Ramadan.
yeah. No, Jazakallah khair. I appreciate that thing about, using the language and how, using the correct words indicates kind of our mindset and mentality. So wallahi, Jazakallah khair for that. Having a unique Ramadan, it definitely is going to be very special for a lot of people. And I think, inshallah, it can be a very good one as well, inshallah. Sheikh Muhammad, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, what I wanted to say is that, if we really if we want to analyze the Ramadan activities or the type of opportunities that a person has in Ramadan, right? The main purpose or the main practice in Ramadan is fasting, which is something that we can, inshallah, most of us, bi'idhnillah azza wa jal, will be able to do, inshallah ta'ala. So we're going to be able to to fast anyways. You know, we don't need you know, people with you. So what is different here is, what is going to be missing is being able to go to the masjid for iftar occasionally, or visiting other people, right? So you will just have to break fast on your own or with your family members, and hopefully, inshallah, people can learn to basically get along and help one another. And you know, that's the part that, and maybe people now, you know, I don't know, Sheikh Yasser, what suggestions do you have? The bright side for me is, or the silver lining here is that we had a month of, you know, coming regularly on a regular basis, you know, for meals with family members. You know, Ramadan begins, you know, there is a little more discipline because you all have to basically break fast at the same time. Inshallah, we're going to be having activities before, online activities for people before iftar, and after iftar for you know, the time of Taraweeh at 9:45. Hopefully by then, you know, our community members are done with their iftar and they're getting ready basically to pray Isha, or they have prayed Isha and they're getting ready to pray Taraweeh, maybe listen to something inspiring, right? And then people just have to basically figure something for their Taraweeh. Families that have someone that memorizes the Quran and that can lead, alhamdulillah, they're very fortunate. Hopefully families that don't, maybe they can take this opportunity to encourage someone within that household, inshallah, maybe to memorize the Quran. Maybe our appreciation for the memorization of the Quran, or for our kuffar, or for the ability to recite the Quran properly, maybe our ability will increase. Alhamdulillah, we have all kinds of also technology that we can use, devices that we can listen to, right? So I think in terms of the acts of worship and ibadah, there is plenty that can be done, right? Inshallah ta'ala. You know, and hopefully this Ramadan is, as Sheikh Yasser said, and I totally agree, is going to be a unique Ramadan, inshallah ta'ala, for us to remember for a long time. But I'm hoping that it will be a transformative experience, that we're going to, overall, this whole, you know, COVID-19, you know, pandemic experience, right? I've been praying that, and I've been telling myself, this is my self-talk, inshallah ta'ala, it will come to pass and we will get through it, bidnillah. I hope that that I am going to be a better person after this experience, after having witnessed this, right? Now, on top of that, when Ramadan comes in, and it's going to be, again, a different, like a unique Ramadan, hopefully, inshallah ta'ala, that will just help us internalize and solidify some of these lessons that we've been actually contemplating and thinking about throughout this experience. So I think I'm very hopeful. I understand and I acknowledge the difficulty that, you know, many of us are going to have, but I think I'm very hopeful. There is something for us to learn, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is merciful. Sheikh Anwar, you know what gives me hope?
What gives you hope, Sheikh?
That in the middle of the ayat that talk about fasting, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ. Right? You can still, even if you're not going to be able to go pray behind your favorite imam and you know, stand in long du'as that many people enjoy. It's not necessarily from the sunnah to prolong the du'a, but many people enjoy the du'a. Guess what? Even if you can't do that on your own, now you can do something that is even better. You can prolong your sujood. You can prolong your sujood, and you can make dua in your sujood at home, alone. You know, the Prophet ﷺ spoke about a person who gets emotional as he or she remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when they're alone. وَرَجُلٌ ذَكَرَ اللَّهَ خَالِيًا فَفَاضَتْ عَيْنَاهُ. You know, it's sometimes you find yourself very, you know, emotional when other people are next to you are crying and everyone is getting emotional and the imam is screaming and everything. You find yourself compelled to cry, so you cry. Now it's gonna happen. It's gonna be much more, you know, genuine. It's going to be you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and there's a pleasant feeling that comes, you know, with an experience like that. So I think we're presented with very unique and very excellent opportunities ahead of us. So Sheikh Yasser, by the way, you know how we were discussing the idea of people maybe using their smart devices to recite from it, or if they have an app that can recite for them, right? In like if they want to pray Taraweeh, or so this idea, I have submitted a question to a council of scholars, and it's being discussed, and so far there is no objection to it, but inshallah ta'ala. But it's a very interesting scenario that came out of a discussion because of these unique and special circumstances that we're in.
And Sheikhna, I believe here is what's being said. I think different people have different abilities. And the beautiful thing about our deen is لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها.
Allahu Akbar.
Allah would not burden us with that which is beyond our capability and capacity. So not everybody has memorized the Quran. What are their options in Ramadan? I think you've said this. You can actually, in Taraweeh, you can open the Mus'haf and you can be praying Taraweeh and you can be reading of the Mus'haf. If this is something that you want to do, that is an option for the people there. For those who do not have the ability to recite the Quran properly, I think there is also an opportunity to maybe read the Quran with understanding. So you know what, Taraweeh may really not be the place for it, but now I would like to read the Quran in a language that I understand, so that my appreciation and my knowledge of the Quran is deepened. And like you said, to some of us, maybe it's not the standing portion of the prayer that we find to be most fulfilling. Maybe it is when we are in the state of bowing, or when we are in the state of prostrating, humbling ourselves before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what we are saying is that there is not one single way of getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you find yourself, you know what, Taraweeh is not really how do I say this? Taraweeh really may not be something that is within your abilities. There are other things that can be done during this time. And also, and I don't know how you feel about this, both of you, Shuyukh, I love how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests you as to who is going to perform the best of deeds. And this idea of the best of deeds is really relevant, meaning that time dictates the best of deeds. The place dictates the best of deeds. Individual skills and abilities determine what the best of deeds are. So with where we are and what we have and when we are living, I believe that choosing the best of deeds is just something that is within reach for each and every single one of us. And I think that is the challenge, finding out what is the best of deeds, at this time. But we would love to see, the outcome of the discussion of the Council of Scholars, as far as, if that is something that can be done.
Yeah, Jazakallah khair, Shaykhna. I always like the statement of Imam Malik, rahimahullah, where he says, "Inna Allah qassama al-a'mal kama qassama al-arzaq." Where Allah has distributed the deeds just as He's distributed, wealth and providing and provisions. Because He says some people, Allah might open up the doors for them of salah, but not siyam, and some other people might be siyam and not sadaqah, and some people might be sadaqah and not siyam. And so everybody kind of has this ability, this natural gravitation towards certain deeds that other people might not. And so I think some people might feel under pressure, like in Ramadan, to do certain things because other people are doing them and not necessarily what they themselves have the natural yearning for. Because like you said, there's a lot of different ways. The doors of good are multiple. Anybody can use one of those doors to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I think this Ramadan perhaps provides an opportunity for people to do a lot of self-exploration, to see what is the deed that actually gets them closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and more so than just kind of going with the flow and doing whatever everybody else is doing.
Jazakallah khair. Absolutely, wallahi, very, very well said. And remember that we should not be doing certain things out of guilt. Because I know that sometimes people would, even in Ramadan, people would come to Taraweeh and they're really tired because they had a long day and they're feeling sleepy and, would say, man, everybody's praying. I can't just leave right now. And look, man, see, these are deeds that we would want to do out of desire and not necessarily out of, you know, and not necessarily out of guilt. So my hope is that, like you said it, some some good deeds to some people come really natural. Some people, literally, subhanallah, are good about making other people feel good. They're good about making people smile. You ask the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he would say
Sallallahu
that
alayhi wa
the
sallam.
deeds that Allah loves most is bringing joy to a heart of a believer. If that's what you're good at, alhamdulillah. To other people, maybe it is praying on time. To other people, it may be taking care of your elderly parents. To other people, maybe it is about extending good to other people. So, subhanAllah, that which comes naturally to you with the least effort, meaning not with the least effort, meaning that you really do not have to compel yourself to do, and we're not talking about rituals here, but the idea of doing your best, especially if your best happens to also be a natural ability that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed you with.
Can I make a confession?
This is
Yeah,
good. Let's
Sheikh,
hear
go
it.
ahead. This is the time.
Okay.
This
It
is the
better, it
time
better
for
be
Now,
good.
okay. And this is like a little maybe detail that maybe Hifad, Imams, people who are maybe able to relate to. There's always that moment when, especially when you're leading Salah, right? There's always that moment when you want to prolong the Salah. Like you feel it, you're feeling it, and you don't want to make ruku'. But guess what? You have a schedule. You have to finish Taraweeh at a certain time, right? So you're always stressed out about that. Also, there are times where you don't feel like going very fast and you want to slow down the qira'ah because you want to contemplate, right, on a particular verse. You don't want to even go past it. I mean, we know that the Prophet ﷺ and many great people in our history, they made Qiyam al-Layl. There's one who basically just kept repeating one verse and just reflecting. That's all he did. He kept, for instance, there's that famous story of Al-Hasan al-Basri repeating the verse وَبَدَى لَهُم مِّنَ اللَّهِ مَا لَمْ يَكُونُوا يَحْتَسِبُونَ. That's it. He couldn't go past it, right? Or I forgot who it was. I think Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. فَأَنذَرْتُكُمْ نَارًا تَلَظَّى. Right? So there are these moments, but you don't get to really enjoy it because you're on a schedule. Now you can do that on your own. Abu Sulaiman al-Darani was reported to have said, he said, إذا وجدت قلبك في القيام فلا تركع. وإذا وجدت قلبك في الركوع فلا تقم. That's it. So find your heart, right? So now you get to basically do your ibadah, at your own pace, at your, and you get to live the moment because you're in control of your schedule, right? So I think this is going to be, I'm now very excited, about the whole idea. And also, Sheikh Yasser, correct me if I'm wrong. Same thing, Sheikh Anwar. You don't have to pray 20 rak'ahs. You don't have to pray 8 rak'ahs. You can do 8. You can do 10. You can do 20. You can do 4. Right? You can, So what I think this time we can really, really, as individuals, right, focus on the quality, right, of our acts of worship more than the quantity, right? When it comes to salah and dua and what have you. And I think it's going to also, help us, broaden or expand, our pool of dua, that we're familiar with, right? It will actually force us. It will bring us out of our comfort zone and maybe cause us to engage this beautiful tradition of ours that we have. I have a question for you, for both of you, right? I know, especially, I know that this is the case with young couples, and both of you look like you belong to that age group, right? I know a lot of young couples who basically used to alternate and take for instance, so that everybody can have their share of their ibadah, right? So one thing that I knew multiple couples used to do is alternate. Like every other night, one of them will be babysitting, and the other one will be like attending Taraweeh, right? So they will take shifts that they can. And I used to tell the person who's, let's say, missing Taraweeh, by the way, you're not missing out on anything. You can obviously pray at home on your own, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you for allowing your spouse basically the opportunity to pray with the jama'ah. That is not going to be the case. So what thoughts and ideas do you have for that particular segment?
Here is the thing. Like I think it goes back to what was being said earlier. To many people, I think the spiritual aspect of Ramadan has been confined into Taraweeh, okay? Where people feel that if I missed out on Taraweeh, like my Ramadan is incomplete, which is, by the way, we don't want to take that away from people. The idea that actually people enjoy rituals, I think it's beautiful. And I don't think that we need to fault people for that. What we're hoping for is that to expand the idea of Ramadan. Ramadan is many things. It's the fasting, it's the Taraweeh, and other things. But to many people, I think Taraweeh just happened to be the thing to do simply because it was a beautiful routine. It was a community effort. It was an opportunity to learn. It was an opportunity to listen to the Quran. It was an opportunity to truly feel spiritual. There is something about being in the masjid, by the way. Being in the masjid is really, really, it's a beautiful feeling. That collective Ameen, there is something about that collective Ameen. And many times, I would hear the Imam making dua, and the whole point is this. Maybe my Ameen on its own is really not, I haven't really fulfilled all the conditions for my Ameen to be heard. But our Ameen is like a collective appeal to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, when people say Ameen, to me, man, I say, there's got to be somebody here whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, because of him or because of her, these prayers are going to be answered. So we don't want to take that away from people, the idea of I am missing out on Taraweeh. So please, wallahi, really, to many people, yes, that is going to be something that they will miss out on. But some of us still have kids that need to be babysat, even nowadays. So I think it will continue. It will just be done at home and not necessarily um, at the masjid. But I think what you're alluding to is learning to share the fact that different people are have different needs, and we need to accommodate and facilitate for each other's spiritual growth. And I think that's what you're talking about.
Sheikh Anwar, what ideas do you have for that?
Well, I mean, from a practical point of view, I was going to say that
I'm sorry, Sheikh Anwar, how old are your kids? How old are your kids?
8, 5, and 3.
Okay.
So, alhamdulillah. So I was going to say that I think there's this misconception that the Taraweeh have to be done right after Isha, right? And the reality is we do it after Isha just to accommodate the people, but in reality, they don't have to be done right after Isha. So if a family has like young children, they can wait until the children are in bed, like the couple, for example, to have young children that are not going to pray with them, in order for them to actually be able to pray together, you know what I mean, tahajjud or whatever they want. They can even do it at the last third of the night, so they can go to bed right after Isha and then theoretically wake up an hour before Fajr, or an hour and a half, whatever they want, and then pray their qiyam then if they want to do, or they don't have to pray any qiyam whatsoever. I mean, the qiyam, like we said, it's nafila, but obviously the month of Ramadan is to take advantage of the nawafil. So that's something that, you know what I mean, there's flexibility. We don't have to copy what the masjid was doing, I think, you know what I mean, because we're now doing it at home. And I think, you know, this is where the workshops like Sheikh Muhammad and Sheikh Yasser and myself can do, is to kind of focus on the rulings that pertain to Ramadan that are specific maybe to the home, not necessarily the masjid. Is something that we can look into, inshallah. So yeah. I have a question for the both of you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Sheikh. No, go ahead, Sheikh. You were gonna add something?
Yeah, I was gonna say, you just reminded me also that people now don't have to rush and eat everything that they need to eat for the night before Taraweeh. You know what I mean? So now you are in charge of your own schedule. Eat reasonably, right? Give yourself, you know, some room to breathe. Pray your salah, and then after the salah, maybe you can have, you know, another light meal or whatever. So you're pretty much in control of your schedule. You don't have to rush. You're not going to be disappointed that the imam shortened the salah when you wanted him to prolong it. You're not going to be disappointed and thrown off by the fact that someone double parked, you know, or blocked you. You're not going to be disappointed by the fact that the person next to you, you are able to tell from the smell of their breath the ingredients of whatever they had for iftar. You're not going to be disappointed and disturbed by the fact that the children are running around. You're not going to be disappointed by the fact that the imam took much longer than you needed and you couldn't focus anymore because you were so late for you know, for bedtime. So you're going to do ibadah at your own pace, knowing that everybody else is doing the same thing, inshallah ta'ala. You know, Sheikh Anwar, I was going to ask, since you're like tech savvy, you know, could there be like ways for people to connect, especially evening time? Maybe do like Quran, or even after Asr, you know, Quran studies or different things for people just to connect, you know, virtually, and you know, create, for instance, like spiritual support circles and groups.
Wallah, I think, yani, I don't think this is necessarily like a technical question, Sheikh, but there's a lot of families that have been doing like group Zoom sessions, you know what I mean, or like group FaceTime sessions. But I would recommend even extending it to like friends, neighbors, people that you would regularly connect to as well, to do a Zoom session. There's nothing wrong with this. So I'll tell you, like personally, on a personal note, we recently did a Zoom session for a bunch of us who went to college together. So these are friends that we've had for like 20 years, 15 years ago, that we've stayed in touch, you know what I mean, on WhatsApp and whatnot. But we did a Zoom session where we haven't seen each other. Some of us haven't seen each other in years, it's been. And some it's been months, some it's been. And so we did this group Zoom session. We had, I want to say like maybe 15 people in it, and it was amazing. And everybody's just connecting. 2 hours went by, and wallah, you didn't even feel the 2 hours. It was like the fastest 2 hours of this whole ordeal. And so we decided to do it khalas every, you know what I mean, like one night of the week, we're gonna reconnect on Zoom just to kind of bond, you know, talk to each other, etc. Which, you know what I mean, to me, this is very beneficial. And I think people don't shy away from using technology to reconnect with people. You know what I mean? So, and obviously Sheikh Yasser can maybe expand on this. You know what I mean? It's healthy. You know, there's a lot of churches that do this where they have like men's groups. And obviously there's women's groups as well. But even for men, that bonding that we get just by talking with one another, you know, interacting with one another, I think is hugely important. And it needs to continue. You want to expand on that, Sheikh Yasser?
Sure. There was actually a study that was conducted by Harvard, and it is one of the longest sociological studies, and it was on predictions for health and happiness. And it is the longest because I think it's been going on for over 75 years. And they were studying people in the hopes that they will look into the factors that determine their health as well as their happiness. And what they found out that all of these people had in common was not how much money they made or how higher of a ranking they were able to achieve. What they found out is that most of these people had healthy relationships, and that is just crucial. And remember, when we mean healthy relationships, we're not just talking about, you know, marital relationships. Marriage is one of many different relationships. You know, people who had friends, they had a social community that they belong to. It was the masjid group, the synagogue or the mosque. It was a family that they have had, how good of a relationship they have had with their parents and siblings and children and so on. And I think that is why the masjid is so important to so many people. You know, this is the place that they can come. Remember, it is more than just prayers. Please keep in mind that the Prophet ﷺ said that the entire earth is being designated for me as a masjid. Every place is a good enough place to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning that our relationship to Allah is not confined to a specific building. You can worship Allah wherever and wherever. But the beauty of this building is that there creates that sense of togetherness, which I think is what really, what makes the masjid unique, in addition to it being designated as the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and what have you. But to many of us, it is the fact that we come here and this is our second family. Many people view the masjid as, this is my second family, man. I've got like blood relatives, and now I've got, my brothers and sisters in faith and my brothers and sisters in humanity. So I think that is crucial. All right, I think we're almost out of time here, but I wanted to ask, as far as ideas, I think we discussed this earlier. Ideas of what can be done during this Ramadan outside of the fact that people are no longer coming to Taraweeh. So we've already said that you can pray Taraweeh at home if that is something that you choose to do. You can pray with your family. You can pray on your own. You can pray immediately after Isha. You can pray immediately before Suhoor. You can read out of the Mus'haf, if you choose to do so. And Sheikh Muhammad, I believe you said that some people don't have the Mus'haf. They can be holding their phone as long as they're not looking at any other app, just looking at just the Mus'haf. I believe you said they can.
Yeah, they're smart. I mean, you can use a smart device, yes.
Okay, so they can do that. So Taraweeh is something that can be done at home. It doesn't have to be done in Jama'ah. And sisters can also pray Taraweeh on their own. So this is something that everybody can do. To me, honestly speaking, Ramadan is the month of the Quran. So to me, I would say if people can, designate a time, and the intent is, I wish to get to know the Quran better. It can be one part of the Quran, or I'm just going to embark on this mission of reading the Quran from cover to cover with understanding. So one suggestion that I would have for people out there is, increase our relationship with the Quran via more comprehension and understanding of the Quran.
Yeah, I love that. I love that idea, Sheikh. There's actually a question that came on the Q&A website, which is talking about like finishing the idea of like finishing the Quran, like a khatma, and so on and so forth. Is it like required? Is it necessary? Is it recommended? These types of things. Should it be done during Taraweeh? Can it be done outside of Taraweeh? I don't know if one of you would like to expand on that.
Muhammad, go for it.
It's actually highly recommended to finish the recitation of the whole Quran. I personally think that it's even sunnah. Someone might say, how? Well, the Prophet ﷺ used to revise the Quran with Jibreel. And actually, in the last Ramadan of his life, the Prophet ﷺ did revise the Quran with Jibreel twice. It's also the month that witnessed the descension of the Quran. Quran descended شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. So a lot of scholars say that this is the month where we need to focus. Even scholars who are specialized in various areas of religious studies, when the month of Ramadan comes, they stop everything and they focus on the Quran, on reading as much as they can, understanding and engaging and studying the Quran. So yes, we should try, we should aim, and we should strive, and we should try our very best to finish the Quran at least once, to go through the whole Quran at least once. There is virtue in doing that. There is virtue in reciting the Quran. And if you're having difficulty reading it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet in the hadith rather, said that فَلَهُ أَجْران, that the person who stutters or who finds reading Quran difficult will inshallah be double rewarded. So there is reward in it, and we know that for each letter it's 10 good deeds. لا أقول ألف لام ميم حرف ولكن ألف حرف ولام حرف وميم حرف, for each letter. So it's something that we should do. Yes, you should try to finish the whole Quran. If you can't read it, or if you don't have someone that can help you to read it, maybe you can listen to someone recite it slowly. Pick your favorite qari and listen to them while you're following in the mushaf. That is another option that is available. And whether you do it sitting or during salah, there is it's optional, right? So you can, but at least try to go through the whole Quran once at least if you can, inshallah ta'ala. We should also motivate our children. Actually, an idea that I was discussing with my own children was maybe dividing the Quran between them, saying, listen, why don't like each one of you read 200 pages, right, between the three of you, and if you accomplish this, then I will give you a special gift, or entice them, just to motivate them to engage the Quran. I think we should do that and try to read as much as we can of it. Obviously, focusing on the meaning is very important, but also reciting in and of itself, there is a blessing in our ability to be to repeat and recite the words of our Creator subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yeah, good.
Oh, by the way,
yeah, go ahead.
Sheikh Anwar, I'm thinking, inshallah ta'ala, that to do a virtual Khatm al-Quran, inshallah. So in other words, towards the end of Ramadan, inshallah ta'ala, whatever we're reciting, right, we come together on a particular night and do Khatm on, like a public Khatm, inshallah, and people can join us for it, inshallah, and we'll make dua, inshallah.
Inshallah. Jazakallah khair, Allah Shaykh. What else, going back to that original question, yani, what else can we offer for people? What other things can they do during Ramadan now that they're at home? Because I think one theme that keeps on showing up throughout our discussion is this idea of being genuine with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that idea of sincerity. Because now, this Ramadan is really going to be, I think a strengthening of our sincerity in the deeds that we do, because we're not doing them for the public, we're not doing them from the pressure, we're not doing them for anything now other than I'm doing these for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I don't know if you guys want to expand on this idea.
One thing to keep in mind is, remember, sincerity is not necessarily a goal. Sincerity is a lifestyle. And what happens is that it's not something that we just say, by the end of Ramadan, I am going to reach sincerity. What we say is that I am going to be, embarking on this process of sincerity. It really is a lifestyle. And I can tell you that, subhanallah, there is so much struggle. Anytime you are a public figure, there is a struggle with this whole notion of sincerity. Every time you speak in public, am I informing or am I performing? Am I doing this or saying this because it sounds good or it will be received well, or am I? So, and that is where, subhanallah, I really like to refer to it as, look, this is a process, it is a lifestyle, and it is a constant struggle. And I think what we are saying, or if I understood you correctly, Sheikh, no, I think what you're saying is that many times the idea of showing up for Taraweeh in the masjid or showing up for this, you're not sure, am I really going there because I want to go there? Or am I going there because I'm expected to be there? Or, it is just the social expectations that we are going to be there. Am I praying Taraweeh because I really want to, or it won't look good if I were to leave now? And that's what you're saying, is that now I get to know, did I really enjoy Taraweeh, or is it something else that I was that I was doing. And remember, I tend not to want to make people feel guilty. I'm saying, look, maybe with the new setting, maybe Taraweeh is not necessarily what's going to be easiest for you or most appealing for you, but you have got to find that thing. You've got to find the thing that you do genuinely, that you do lovingly, and that you really do for the sake of, strengthening your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It may not be Taraweeh. Some people may really enjoy the idea of, I am just going to check on community members. Some people may just say, look, I am going to cook a meal and surprise somebody. With that meal, I'm just going to knock on their door and just say, look, Ramadan Mubarak, this is something that I cooked for you. And please remember that now, especially nowadays, I think human connection is really, really, really important. Loved ones who are dying on their own and by themselves. I would love it if we can form better relationships with our neighbors. We're talking about 30 days of Ramadan. Can you imagine? I'm going to do 15, neighbors on this side and 15 neighbors on this side, or whatever combination you want to do. It's like every time I cook something, I'm just going to take one dish and I'm just going to say, look, I am your neighbor. I live here. And you know what? It's the month of Ramadan. I cooked this dish and my family wanted to, enjoy this meal with you, or, wanted to share a meal with you. That will just be such a nice way of connecting with people, checking on them, and what have you. And subhanAllah, if we do these things with, again, genuineness and sincerity, then Ramadan would have a very special, flavor for a good number of us. And I think, these are some of the practical ideas of how can I make this Ramadan a special Ramadan. I got to know at least 30 of my neighbors. That'd be so lovely to do.
Yeah. Sheikh Yasser, you remind me of a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ when he was asked about, the most beloved deeds to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he said, or the most virtuous of deeds, and he said, تدخل على أخيك المؤمن سرورا أو تقضي عنه دينا أو تطعمه خبزا. In another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, أحب الناس إلى الله أنفعهم. Right? Yeah, I know this is one of your favorite, right? وأحب الأعمال إلى الله عز وجل سرور تدخله على مسلم أو تكشف عنه كربة أو تقضي عنه دينا أو تطرد عنه جوعا ولا أن أمشي مع أخي المسلم في حاجته أحب إلي من أن أعتكف في هذا المسجد شهرا ومن كف غضبه ستر الله عورته ومن كظم غيظه ولو شاء أن يمضيه أمضاه ملأ الله قلبه رضا يوم القيامة ومن مشى مع أخيه المسلم في حاجته حتى يثبتها له أثبت الله قدمه يوم تزل الأقدام وإن سوء الخلق ليفسد العمل كما يفسد الخل العسل. Subhanallah. I think this hadith is very comprehensive and it basically lays out everything for Ramadan because it addresses everything, right? Don't act upon your anger, right? Suppress your frustration with your spouse or with your children, right? Be there for other people, make a difference in someone's life, or as Sheikh Yasser mentioned, reach out to other people. There are a lot of, this is the beauty of our religion, it has this very like comprehensive definition for worship, right? You can still do worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in different ways. As a matter of fact, as Sheikh Yasser mentioned, the best of these are those that actually bring benefit to other people. So you can indeed do ibadah in Ramadan and capitalize on that. Alhamdulillah. Jazakumullah khairan.
And just to be fair to the hadith, Sheikhna, I know you touched upon, for those who
yes,
Arabic is not
by the
really.
way, I knew you were going to do that, and that's why. I knew that's how I'm going to pull you in.
No, and I think, the idea now here, the Prophet ﷺ said that the best of deeds is joy that you bring into the heart of a believer, or
Yes.
that you relieve them of some debts that they are unable to pay on their
Yes.
own, or it is
Yes.
the fact that you alleviate some of their hardships. Okay, or he sallallahu alaihi wasallam would say to take away a sense of hunger that they are feeling, and he gave the example أو تطعمه خبزا, but that even if it be that you feed them
Piece of bread.
you feed them bread, or that at least you practice self-discipline and do not let your anger and lash out at people, for example. But see, and I love that it all has to do with how we are with those who are around us. And I love this. I hope I can, inshallah, say it very quickly. But I love the way that it was described. They say that, our deen is a set of beliefs that manifest themselves in the form of rituals that impact the individual, and that exhibits itself in the way that we deal with other people. And I just love that. By the end of the day, after your beliefs, after your rituals, and how you were impacted, what kind of a final product are you when you are dealing with those who are around you? So you're either spreading joy, or you are relieving people out of their troubles. And I think Ramadan is such an excellent opportunity for each and every one of us, because we all are capable of doing this, inshallah.
No, Jazakallah khair, wallah, Jazakallah khair, Shaykhna. There's some questions of asking about like the daily schedule for Ramadan, at least as far as like we're concerned, and the community and whatnot. Would you like to share that, Sheikh Muhammad?
Yeah, inshallah
Like
ta'ala, we're
nightly
going to be have,
khatirat.
yeah, for the first week of Ramadan, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to be having a couple of online events, inshallah. One is a dua session. This is pre-iftar, and then, you know, ends at breaking fast, inshallah ta'ala, with the adhan, inshallah. So every day we're going to be sharing a dua with you, hopefully with the hope that you will be inspired and touched by this dua, and perhaps even memorize it, right? And use it, utilize it, inshallah ta'ala. And the other session is that at 9:45 every night, inshallah, we're going to have a Quranic reflection. As you know, many of our viewers, inshallah ta'ala, know, and they're familiar with the fact that the Quran is divided into 30 parts, right? Juz or pars. And it's approximately anywhere from 20 to 21 pages each juz, right? And traditionally or typically people recite one part every night during the month of Ramadan, to be able to end at the end, to finish it at the end of the month of Ramadan. So every night, inshallah azza wa jal, we're going to be sharing a reflection from one of the verses or one of the topics that are brought up in one of these parts. So, night one will do a section from the first part, night two from the second part, and so on and so forth, inshallah ta'ala. Hopefully, again, with the intention of inspiring us to engage the Quran and explore more of its gems on our own, inshallah ta'ala. We won't be able to go through the whole thing, obviously, but every night we're going to have a 15-minute, inshallah ta'ala, reflection and lesson from the Quran, inshallah azza wa jal. This is for the first week, and there will be, inshallah ta'ala, more programs coming for the rest of the month as well, that we are going to announce, inshallah azza wa jal. I also, my understanding is that there will be some sessions for the youth as well, right, Sheikh Anwar?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe we're gonna be doing some youth sessions, and even some sessions for the sisters, and specifically as well. I think yourself and Sheikh Yasser, and we'll try to target as many different segments of the community as possible. So even something for like new Muslims, some specific sessions for them on how to deal with Ramadan, especially being new, and of course, in light of the unique circumstances that we have, and be a resource for them as well, inshallah ta'ala. So yeah, that's something that we'll be doing.
And we also have a golden opportunity for people to make a difference and do some feeding. So we have this program. MIC has had this amazing program of feeding the needy. So if you want to donate towards it, inshallah, it's $300 will be extended to families in need, inshallah ta'ala. So donate and participate in this program, where, alhamdulillah, our committee here basically purchases and helps families that are in need, inshallah ta'ala. And I'm sure with the current financial crisis, due to the effect of COVID-19 pandemic. Obviously, there are more people who are in need and they're in difficult situation. So inshallah ta'ala, if we encourage all the viewers, inshallah, to contribute towards this fund and do that, someone inshallah, you contribute, you give the funds, and inshallah we'll take care of that for you bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from all of you.
I mean, no, I mean so the idea of the iftar, you know, the drive-through iftar, I guess, if that's the name for it, is obviously like multiple.
No, that's
fronts.
in addition to it, Sheikh Anwar.
And yeah, of course, there's the helping the needy families,
Yes.
and there's a fund for that. But then also, inshallah, we're going to try to have, you know, like a drive-through iftar, which is, I mean, you don't have to be needy to come and join, because obviously in the past, you know, mashallah, Memphis, you know, the masajid, you know, Masjid al-Rahman and MIC and Masjid al-Nur and Masjid al-Salam, and even Midtown Mosque and many of the other places, they would host nightly iftars where hundreds of people would show up. And so when you have that many people, you know, we're going to try to at least still continue doing the iftar, and then it also will help like the local restaurants that have been suffering through, you know, the economic crisis that we're going through. So you help the restaurant, and then you're also like, you know, inviting, sharing people, and then people can also kind of share that idea that, you know, we're eating similar food and whatnot, and you can give the family at home a break so that they don't have to cook every single night, because I think that's something that a lot of the sisters are dreading, you know, in this day and age, is that they have to cooking every single night. So, you know, if the husbands can help, even if they can't cook, they can at least, you know, bring in iftar from one of the masajid.
Or
wash the dishes, yeah, alhamdulillah. You should be washing the dishes anyways, yani. I took it on myself. I've been taking care of the dishes since this whole thing started.
Sheikh Anwar, wallahi, I don't mean to get the you know, to really like score points with the sisters or get the brothers in trouble. I'm not joking, but indeed it's an act of worship. It's actually prophetic, right? To help you know, our spouses at home, right? Whoever it is, because there are situations where the wife might be the person, basically the breadwinner who's working. So to lend a hand to the person at home trying to you know, to the homemaker, I think it's sunnah, it's prophetic. So for those who are looking for acts of worship, there you go. That's an act of worship. Inshallah ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you. Just make sure that you have the intention, inshallah, to follow the sunnah and help this person. And inshallah, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you immensely, inshallah, for that.
No, inshallah, yeah, of course, it's sunnah. I mean, the idea that it's sunnah, khalas, that's enough. You know what I mean? You get some reward in doing so. There were a few more questions, I think. So with the whole issue on the device, whether a person can hold the device and read, I think you can hold the device and read, but whether the device can play and you listen and follow along, we're still waiting for the
that's being researched right now.
Fatwa Council. Yeah. Okay, so we'll wait on that. There was a question here: can a person pray? And I think he means here make dua in his own language in sujood. What's the ruling on that, Sheikhna? Does anybody want to go, Sheikh Yasser, Sheikh Muhammad?
So they refer to this as which part of the salah may be done in a language other than Arabic. So outside of the Quran, some scholars have actually okayed this idea of making dua in sujood, you know, in a language that is understood by the individual.
No, Jazakallah khair. Very good. How can we here? There's a question here. As a father and a husband, how do you suggest to prepare for Taraweeh every night with the family? I think the question here is like, how do you get the family to pray together if a person has children or maybe even teenagers where it might be difficult to kind of motivate them? What are some tips that we can do to kind of at least have a communal, or not a communal, but a jama'ah in the house if a person lives with their family?
If I may, Sheikh, now just introduce something here. So keep in mind that Taraweeh is not a must. So sometimes you don't want to compel people to do that which is not an obligation upon them. And I think that the joy of praying Isha Jama'ah has to be overwhelmingly more important than the joy of praying Taraweeh together. So that is number one. Also, take in consideration if your kids do not understand Arabic, then you know what, the idea of really being wanting to pray Taraweeh may really not sound as attractive to them as as we would want them to be. So you want to take in consideration their age, the physical state that they are in, if they're feeling tired and what have you, and you accommodate these things. But look, we will keep it short, we will keep it this, and maybe in between you can do something to rejuvenate and so on. But you would know your kids better, so you appeal to them in ways that would make sense to them, keeping in mind that by the end of the day, Taraweeh is not a must. However, praying Isha and Maghrib and breaking fast together in congregation, I think that is something that it's a habit that I believe that we should really, really, really try to implement this Ramadan.
So,
Very good. Jazakallah khair, Shaykhna.
Is
Anything
that
else you guys anyone wanna add, Shaykh Muhammad?
do we have any questions that need to be addressed tonight, or can we?
I'm looking like one question was about asking gatherings and or like for Eid, are we going to be able to pray Eid, etc. But we don't know the answer to these
Yes.
questions or even Salatul Jama'ah until things are clear in terms of the pandemic, so we can't really answer those. And then there's a question about the number of rak'at, but like you said, I think this comes down to the individual, how much they want to do. Shaykhna, one last question, we can end with this. What about the idea of trying to, obviously, like we said, we should do the good deeds that come natural to us. But what about the idea of trying to better ourselves and maybe like pushing ourselves to get a little bit out of our comfort zone? Is there anything that we can
Sheikh Yasser,
do to like?
Yeah.
if I-
So remember,
if I-
the best does not mean the easiest. The best is not the laziest. Okay. So for example, if my neighbor is hungry or their house is burning, the best of deeds is to help them. Okay. So what happens is that in our deen, all deeds are not of the same value. In the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ says, "Al-imanu bid'un wa sab'una shu'ba. أعلاها لا إله إلا الله وأدناها إماطة الأذى عن الطريق." That's Iman is 70 some branches, where the highest of it is La ilaha illallah and the lowest of it is removing harm from the path of the people. And the key word here is that there is highest and then there is lowest. So you do not want to busy yourself with that which is less important while having the ability to do that which is more important. And that's what we're hoping for. So we don't do the best of deeds out of convenience. We don't do the best of deeds out of laziness. Sometimes, okay, here, fine, $10. Some people really find that to be easy, to do. And please continue to do that if that's something that you are capable of doing. But is that really the best of deeds? Okay. Is that really the best of deeds at that particular time to this particular person with the skills and the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you? So now the idea is not to promote laziness or laxity or stagnation. I think what you said is, look, sometimes people find themselves spiritually in salah while others enjoy. So in your own personal, look, do that which is most effective, that requires, that comes to you with ease. Do not try to I think the key here was, do not try to do other things out of guilt, okay, or because somebody else is doing it. And I think that it was said in that spirit. So that's inshallah what we're hoping that we would accomplish.
if I may, Sheikh Anwar, suggest something. The hadith says, أحب الأعمال إلى الله. If we want to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we want to do whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves most, أحب الأعمال إلى الله أدومها وإن قل. The best or the most beloved of deeds to Allah are those that are continuous, something that you can maintain. right? Something that you can keep up with, something that you can maintain, even if it's little, right? So I think one suggestion that I have for people is, you see what happens is every Ramadan, I don't know if it happened, if this is the case here, but every Ramadan, the masjid on day 1 and 2 and 3 is like jam-packed, right? And then the number dwindles, like it starts basically declining. And then there's that dip, right? And then maybe towards the end of Ramadan, it picks up again. Okay. So you know, I would tell people, start slowly, gradually, with whatever you can do. So if you don't know whether you can do like 10 rak'ahs or not, you know, why don't you begin with just, you know, praying 2 rak'ahs or 4 rak'ahs, right? And continue to do this for some time. If you feel that, mashallah, you have, and you want to change, because obviously we get very, like, there's boredom as well, right? So, you know, 10 rak'ah, 10 rak'ah, 10 rak'ah. So pray 4, you feel a little, it's doable, you feel a little enthused or motivated, make 6, make it 6. You know, the next day you don't feel as motivated, bring it back to that baseline of yours, like, you know, 4, and so on and so forth. So build up gradually. And by the way, I can tell you from, you know, from a personal experience, I'm just sharing this for the sake of, when you do something gradually like this, right? And you try to maintain it, you maintain it for a week or 2 or 3, right? I think it's it will have a greater impact on you than if you were to do something the first week or the first day because everybody else is doing it, because you're excited about Ramadan and you have energy, right? So start slow, start, you know, with what you can afford and what you can do physically and mentally and emotionally. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept, inshallah.
Nice. I like that.
Jazakallah khair. Yeah. Jazakallah khair.
A type of religiosity that is actually maintainable.
Yeah. Jazakallah khair, Shaykhana.
Spreads. Allah yabarak fikum. Allah jazakallah khairan, Shaykhna. I benefited, even myself. I love that quote where you said sincerity is a lifestyle and not a goal. I think this is that's something to definitely take, inshallah, to live by. And Shaykh Muhammad, barakallah fikullah, the good reminders. Any last before we close, inshallah, before we
I have a question. What's the name of the flower behind you?
It's an orchid, but it's not real.
Oh, okay. It looks like something is staring at you.
And just in case you're wondering what's behind me, it is a microphone that I've been trying to decapitate, but it has not. I have not had luck with it so far, but maybe one day.
May Allah accept from all of us.
All of our viewers, you'll have a good night and be safe, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد ان لا اله الا انت نستغفرك ونتوب اليك. والعصر ان الانسان لفي خسر الا الذين امنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر.
امين. جزاكم الله خيرا. السلام عليكم ورحمه الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمه الله.